Warning, this content may be disturbing to some audiences. Subscribe, if you dare.
Long working hours, very small shared cabin with walls thinner than paper so you can hear everything your neighbors are doing. Crew food is bloody awful unless you like living on boiled rice. Hey everybody, welcome to ANECDOSED. People ask Reddit. Cruise ship crews of Reddit, what's it really like to work and live on a cruise ship?
Number 1.
This is very true until you burn yourself out and then it becomes a Monday evening and you collapse in a heap. I worked on cruise ships as an engineer for 3 years and it was some of the best fun I've had in my life. I worked 10 hours per day every day for 4 months, but the social life was enough to keep you going. My first trip was largely uneventful, however, as I spent my time focused on work as I wanted to make a good impression, but in my last month of that contract I met a cool Italian guy who was an absolute player and he took me under his wing. I was an officer and this brought the benefits of a large cabin with double bed and windows. Windows are rare for crew as they mostly have internal cabins. I realized I could use this to my advantage and went from the shy 20-year-old to an absolute whore. I'm not bad looking either, so that helped me a bit. The traveling was fantastic and I traveled the world. My favorite part being the very north of Norway, where in the summer the sun didn't set and there was sunlight all day long. Alcohol, including spirits with my company, was very cheap and you would often find yourself buying drinks for an entire room of people for very little cost. I could, as an officer, order room service and there were even some crew cooking in their cabins and selling it to other hungry crew members. All in all, it's a hard lifestyle to maintain and sleep is limited if you're social and want to go ashore at the same time, but in my opinion, totally worth it. If for a few years in any case.
Number 2.
Transcribing for a family member who helped fit 3 new cruise ships in Italy and then crewed one for about 9 months. The crew was basically divided in half. There was a huge group of Southeast Asians, quite a few were even family members. They mostly stuck to themselves and did a lot of the manual labor style work. The second group was 18 to 30-year-olds from US, Canada, Australia, France, and England. The younger kids humped like rabbits and drank like fish. Most people would blow every paycheck going nuts at each port and drinking on the cruise ship. The older Southeast Asians very rarely drank and very rarely did much at port other than pick up some personal supplies. The rooms were pretty small and the vast majority of them were shared. The meals for the cruise were pretty bomb, and you could also eat/drink anywhere you wanted on the ship as long as you were off your shift and not in your work clothes. It seemed as if the general consensus was it being a great experience for a short period of time, but it is not something you'd most likely enjoy for more than a few seasons unless that type of lifestyle appeals to you.
Number 3.
Long working hours, very small shared cabin with walls thinner than paper so you can hear everything your neighbors are doing. Crew food is bloody awful unless you like living on boiled rice. Crew bar is very cheap, but also full of creepy guys hitting on everyone and insanely gorgeous girls sneering at everyone. But none of that matters. In 5 years on cruise ships I literally traveled the world. I went to Europe, Canada, North, South and Central America including Alaska and Hawaii, Asia including China, Japan and India, Africa. I basically visited every continent except Antarctica, and went to over 75 countries. I took a sled dog ride in Alaska, white water rafting along a river through the jungles of Costa Rica, visited Alcatraz, had an authentic curry in Mumbai, spent a day on a luxury yacht sailing around the Caribbean, snorkeling at the Great Barrier Reef, visited the Great Pyramids in Egypt, been to the lost city of Petra, spent days in Barcelona, Athens, Rome, Kiev, and so much more. None of the bullshit you have to put up with on board matters compared to that.
Number 4.
Everyone sleeps with everyone. The food for the crew is nearly inedible. You will never find a free washer unless you camp out in the laundry room for a few hours. There are usually about 5 to 15 washers/dryers, and anywhere from 1,000 to 2,500 crew members. The rooms are tiny and your shower curtain will always be trying to get to know you biblically. US citizens aren't paid that well, but some countries, where the conversion rate is really good, make some serious bank. South Africa especially. We do get off in port and go have a good time. Many ports have crew discounts for food and drink. However, most contracts last for around 6 to 8 months, so after a while, the same old ports every week start to really wear on you. There is a crew-only bar, and beers are $1.50. Some ships have a crew-only hot tub.
Number 5.
I worked on cruise ships for 3 years and have had 3 friends sent home over this. Essentially you get busted, you have a master's hearing and you're sent home at the next port, on your dime. The cruise companies don't want to be liable for anything, and rape accusations are all too real. We aren't allowed to take elevator rides with guests if you're the only two people in it either, for the same reason. Also, if you're taking a photo with a guest, both of your hands must be visible. It's happens before that a guest claimed she was groped and you couldn't see the crew member's hand in the photo. It was on guest back. Luckily there was a security camera that captured them from behind. Edit, story time for those who love cruise ship injustice. One of my friends was fired for fooling around with a passenger, not even sex. The thing is, we were docked with another ship and they met at a bar on land. The girl told him she was a crew member on the other ship, so he's keen and they go hook up on the beach. The next day he gets called in for a master's hearing. Turns out the woman is a guest on our ship, and a fellow passenger had seen it go down and reported it. My friend was a well-known singer on the ship, and some dude had been trying to hook up with the same chick, so when he saw my friend with her he took it upon himself to turn them in. He lost his job and got sent home. So brutal.
Number 6.
I worked on a major cruise line out of a port in Florida. Crew bar has cheap drinks, but you're technically never supposed to be drunk. You can find most crew there usually always smoking cigarettes, drinking beers and getting a little too drunk. Not much else to do when the ship is at sea. Most crew members have families back home and a lot have girlfriends on board as well. That is just a part of ship life. Crew members are super hard working and work weeks are 70 hours a week without a single day off for 6 to 8 months at a time. Most crew members rely on tips for their wages. My position was salaried for $58 a day. I was an officer on board working in the guest services office. Came out to roughly $1,400 a month after taxes. No one else is taxed besides Americans on board. The best way to describe no days off is waking up to your alarm and every single day feels like a Monday morning, for those that actually have normal work weeks. My position shared a bedroom with bunk beds and really small bathrooms. You could shit, shave your legs, and brush your teeth all at the same time. Depending upon your position on board determined if you had guest area privileges. I was allowed in guest areas, but after spending all day with the guests, that's the last thing I wanted to do. You're always on duty and your supervisors have 24-hour access to you at all times by just ringing your phone and waking you up in your cabin. Sleep was very limited, so every off hour was spent trying to catch up. Wi-Fi was $5 a day for 24-hour access to limited social media apps or $10 for 100 minutes unrestricted. I spent way too much money on the shitty Wi-Fi. Overall, the people you live and work with is what makes your experience on board. Some days are worse than others, but you somehow manage to get through it.
Number 7.
Most of my friends work for cruises. Since we work in technical theater production, it's an easy hire. Cruises are either a great way to save money or an awful one. Your lodging and food is paid for and you're getting paid, so that's great. But cruises are boring. Sure, cheap booze and free travel is great for the first little while. But after a while, it becomes like Squidward in that episode where he finds his perfect down. So routine. So boring. Wi-Fi is usually anywhere from $5 per day to $10/hour and there is no cell service. So, when you're not working, you're trying your best to find anything to do. So a lot of the time you'll start spending money on anything new, and then you're not saving or enjoying yourself, so there's little point. However, many people still enjoy the life of the routine and the travel, and figure ways around spending money. Just know, it's harder than you expect to be one of those people. But if you can be, it's a great opportunity.
Number 8.
I was a cruise ship musician, and I came to say a few things. Firstly, I really only perform in party bands, aka lounge/cover band. We play the big events that aren't the nightly shows in the theater. Ship life is basically high school mixed with jail. Remember high school, where everyone knew everything about everyone's business? Who was making whom, cheating on so-and-so, doing this and that, being a such and such? Well, that's ship life in a nutshell. The bar is where we all congregate, it's where we all commiserate, and it's our only meat market option, because sleeping with guests is not tolerated. Oh, and cheap booze is great. $1.50 to 2 beer, $2.50 to 3.00 mixed drinks. Now, let's add in the jail factor. You're in a tin can and you can't leave. Some people can never get off when in port because their jobs don't allow for it. I was lucky, musicians have an evening schedule that revolves around guest schedules, so we could easily get off in port as long as we weren't working on skeleton crew that day. Oh, and that involved us staying in and doing nothing, or laundry, unless a fire broke out somewhere, and even then we'd stand at a staircase and lead people to a muster station. Yep, Safety is important, and entertainers are front-facing staff, so we put on our nice faces and tell people where to go and what to do. Now, my gig was always easy. I mostly step into party bands, e.g. bands need a bassist, I get called, I just join up and go. I have amassed a song list of over 400 songs and a few contracts. I'm pretty lucky like that. We'd go, play for a few hours, then off to the bar or for food. Speaking of food, crew mess was always horrible. It's mostly geared towards the crew who are from Asia/India. It's not always bad, per se, but it's not what you always want. We had access to the guest buffet, where we'd normally eat. Some ships give more, some give less. Some ship ranks give more, etc. Ships are a very classist system. I can't stress that enough. If you're into social justice, it's a case study worth exploring. Sometimes, the work is exploitative, other times it's demeaning, but these crew have to support their families somehow, and often it's better than what's at home. I've tried to curb my entitlement each time I've been on board. My last contract featured the party band doing a 20/30s style party. We'd take newer songs and put them to a swing beat and a walking bass line, Google postmodern jukebox for a sample. Another party was back to school style, where we'd dress up in stereotypical prep school uniforms and play 60s 2000s tunes. Sometimes it was a bore, sometimes it was awesome. Their biggest party was the white party, which had us playing music from the 70s now, with everyone decked out completely in white clothing. People got drunk, we played and they danced. Not bad. Our job is basically to drive bar sales and make people want to stay. If we failed, they'd have to run extra events in the lounges, which meant more work for the bar staff and the entertainment staff. And then the band would get in some heavy shit. My last ship was smaller. 700 crew, 1800 guests, and the crew bar was a dingy room off the crew mess area at the back of the ship, with no crew pool and barely a crew area on the top deck at the front of the ship. My first ship was much larger, 1,100 crew, 2,800 guests, and featured a crew bar that had 3 rooms and entry to a private area in the front of the ship with pools and seating, all at the front of the ship. On both ships, I shared a room with a member of my band. My first ship, I roomed with the keyboardist, who was much older than me. We got along, but it was apples and oranges. I had the top bunk, which ended up being the best because the bottom bunk was coffin-like. He tried to trade me a couple of months in, I said no. On my last ship, I roomed with the guitarist. He and I were a year apart, it was his first time, and he was totally cool with having a top bunk. The beds in our room were in an L shape, so it was great for space. I also had a double bed in that room, which was awesome. Everyone enjoyed coming to our room because we'd just be hanging out in there most days, doing our thing and not really caring about the gossip. Laundry is best done on port days, or at odd hours. Musicians work nights, so I could get away with doing my washing at 3 a.m., no problem. Make sure to share your personal story in the comments below and have the opportunity to be featured in a future video. Also, if you like these topics, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to continue seeing more content like this every day. See you next time.